I'm going to be talking about my application process and my web-based interview for the Disney College program. I applied on Sunday, September 6th at 11:18 p.m. It was really straightforward. It was just like any other job. They ask you, your name, birth date, social security number, all that kind of stuff, your work experience. The only different part, and in my opinion the fun part, is rating the roles you're interested in. It's important in this part to try not to be too selective with which roles you put interest in and put no interest in, but also be honest with yourself. So try to be open-minded and open to some new experiences, but if you know that you really don't want housekeeping, put no interest, because it's not going to be worth it to be stuck in a job that you hate for a semester. It's not going to make the program exciting, because it's not going to be fun if you're stuck in a job that you hate. The roles that I put high interest in are character performer, character attendant, photo pass photographer, merchandise, and Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. I received my next step web-based interview email on Monday, September 7th at 12:39 a.m. So that was about an hour and 20 minutes after I applied. And when you get that email, it'll tell you that you have 3 days to complete your web-based interview. I completed my web-based interview on Tuesday, September 8th, around 10:30 p.m. I was low-key freaking out about it, but it was really nothing at all very stressful. I found it to be incredibly straightforward. Disney suggests taking about 40 minutes to complete it, but I found that it took me about 20 or 25 minutes to complete it. However, I had a problem. So I clicked on the link in the email and it brought up the web page, and I started to take it and all was going well. I knew when I had started from reading other people's experiences that you don't really know when it's over. It just automatically goes to the next page of whether you get a phone interview or not. So I'm clicking through, I'm answering the questions, I feel like it's going pretty well, I'm going at a reasonable pace, I hadn't missed any, and I'm feeling really good about it. And I click next, and it goes to a black screen. I'd also read that some people had clicked next and it had taken a couple minutes to load the last page that said whether they were moving on or not, so I was kind of expecting it, so I didn't think anything of it, and I sat there and I watched the black page and nothing happened. 10 minutes passed and 15 minutes passed. I didn't know what to do, so I called the number in the email. It said if you run into any technical problems to call them. Now keep in mind this was at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I should have realized that no one was going to be working. It told me to call back during their business hours when an available cast member could talk to me. So I went to the Facebook page and I shared what had happened, and I asked if anyone else had run into this problem and if anyone had any advice. Someone commented maybe 10 minutes later and they said that the same thing happened to them and they refreshed. So I refreshed my page and it said the URL was invalid. So I don't know if it was because I waited a really long time, but I decided I would click the link again in the email. So I clicked on the link in my email and it took me back to where I started and all was well. And from there on I was able to finish my interview and everything went great. So to prepare for my web-based interview, I watched a ton of vlogs and I read blog posts all about what to expect and the best things to do, and I wrote down the best tips in my handy-dandy DCP notebook. So now I'm going to share with you guys the tips that I found to be the most helpful. Some of them I use more than others, but I'll give you the rundown. Tip number 1 is to read the questions out loud. Now, I didn't really do this except for maybe 1 or 2 questions, but I can see where it would be helpful if you're worried that you were going to rush. Tip number 2 is for any of the answers that you're really not sure of the answer, put neutral. I didn't really use this tip because all of the questions that I had I understood, they weren't confusing. I did use neutral maybe 4 or 5 times, but it wasn't because I didn't know what the question was asking or what the correct answer was. Tip number 3 is to take your time and don't rush. I know it can feel a little overwhelming knowing that some of the sections are timed, and the idea that you only have maybe 20 or 30 seconds per question might make you feel like you're going to run out of time and you need to really hurry through it, but don't. I took my time, I read the question thoroughly, I thought about the answer, and I never ran out of time for any of the questions, so you will be fine. Tip number 4 is to answer honestly. Don't overthink your answers and feel like you need to put the answer that Disney wants you to put. They're gonna see through that. There were a few answers where as soon as I clicked next, I freaked out and I wished that I could go back and answer the question differently because I thought that the answer I put wasn't the Disney answer, and I still passed. So just be honest, and if Disney thinks that you're the right fit for their company, everything will work out. Tip number 5 is to put mostly strongly agree or strongly disagree. It's a pretty self-explanatory tip. Disney wants to see that you are very strong in your opinions. Tip number 6 is on the multiple choice questions. Put what you think is the most Disney answer. Basically, put yourself in the shoes of a Disney cast member. What would a cast member do in those situations? Tip number 7 is to think about the situations in terms of yourself at work, not in personal situations. Sure, we all have lazy moments and we procrastinate, but in work situations, of course, you're going to want to be on top of your game and getting things done and being efficient. So as long as you apply those questions to yourself at work, you should be just fine. And lastly, tip number 8. Disney wants happy, hardworking, and neat cast members. So if that's who you are and you're honest in your interview, hopefully that's how you'll come across and everything should be just fine and you'll continue in the application process. So after I completed the interview, it took me directly to a page that said Next Steps Phone Interview. Then I received the email at about 10:44 p.m. So that was about 15 minutes after I completed my web-based interview. Thank you so much for watching. I will be posting a little bit more detailed post concerning the application process and the web-based interview on my blog, which I will link in the description below. And if you have any questions, please comment them down below and I will be sure to answer them for you. And have a magical day!